Hello, and thank you for joining us on another Block Chat. Today, Block Chat is special, as we tell you every time. But today it's special because first we'll be living what have happened over the past week. At the same time, I'll be telling you about the engagement with members of the World Blockchain Summit over the week and what have taken place there. And I've promised someone to record and send him something, which we will do today together alongside Dennis. We will record um, a brief about what we're doing and what's different, and let's hope that goes the right direction with that gentleman who liked what we said today because it's pretty different. Dennis, how are you?
Exhausted, but doing well at the same time. So,
Good.
but I guess that's like the standard mode, being a bit,
100%. So
yeah.
much is happening those days. Huh? It's too much happening, and it's pretty fast sometimes. What have happened over the past week? If you can run us through it, please.
Sure. I mean, since last week's block chat, I think a couple of things had happened. We saw quite an interesting. Well, let's start with things that maybe are more interesting for our community directly. So we've received a confirmation of a potential listing on an exchange. We're going to talk about this with Makram throughout this block chat, telling you what's happening to our community so that we can kind of lay it out to you guys so you understand the process that's in place in terms of governance. We saw a bit of increase in volumes on BST on our DEX. At one point in time, I think we had like 350,000 of volume in 24 hours. We had price increase and price drop. We had new potential assets to be tokenized coming our way, still in early talks. This is always kind of a process that we do in the asset onboarding calls that we make on a weekly basis. We speak regularly with entrepreneurs who are looking into the potential of partnering with us to operate a marketplace. We had some interesting calls this week, just like we do every week. I would say it's nothing new for me on one side. The only thing that I think it's the biggest change is as well the amount of people in our community who are actively joining our DAO to contribute passively, actively, or even getting more involved or wishing to get more involved. And we're really open to for anybody who wants to engage and provide a certain expertise to the DAO to reach out to us and say, hey, you know what, this is what I'm really good at. And I believe that the DAO could benefit from me providing that type of expertise and knowledge and experience from my past to help build Blocksquare as a decentralized infrastructure. So that I would say is kind of a summary in brief of things that are happening.
Perfect. So let's
Yeah.
start with the listing or the approval of listing, which currently is going to our governance board. Yeah.
Exactly.
What
So
has happened there? What was the process, if you don't mind telling us, and what's happening
yeah.
now?
Okay. So in terms of governance, how it works, for everybody who's new to the community, so we have a decentralization plan. And in this decentralization plan, we have a process in place. So at first, it was just the core team deciding on everything that's happening. Then we moved to a governance board, which is
Okay.
a appointed board where there's 2 members of the core team. There's 2 members from our advisors, and 2 members from our community who have been elected in that board, which is a multi-signature wallet with basically 6 equal voters. And this governance board is will be electing new members from its community in due time to basically decrease the exposure or decision-making process towards elected individuals by the community. And this is a gradual process from, let's say, centralization to a decentralized governance that ultimately will be fully on-chain. But before we get there, we need to find define processes in place that kind of enable efficient decision making, because just having democratic decision making doesn't make it efficient. But we, on the other hand, we need to move, with certain stealth, with certain speed, and we don't want to be a dinosaur before being big enough to afford that type of slow movement, right? So
It's not like we ever want to be a dinosaur. However,
of course, but larger ecosystem, larger system have slower moves, but as well, when they make a step, that step is huge, right? And that's in terms of dinosaur, we're not talking about extinction. We're talking about size of a certain creature. But yeah, what this means is that even though an exchange might say, hey, we want to list BST on our exchange, we have a duty towards our community to make decisions on behalf as well of what the community kind of wants and what's good for the community. And these decisions are so important that the governance board needs to make a vote on them. And this decision is up for vote actually to this week, and we will communicate what that decision has been by the governance board.
so today we need to thank Deep Waters for them approving the listing by Blocksquare. Actually, they elected us to be listed there, and we have been through their process, which they've elected to have us there. Is that right, Dennis?
So
Yeah.
there's a process they have. Obviously, they've made a reach out to projects to list projects without a listing fee, which is something that's not usually there. They have a certain way of how they make decisions. So they have a vote, which is comes from internally from their board. The one comes from the community, and then based on that, they have like a motion to proceed or not. And from their end, it has been approved. Now the next step needs to be approved from our end. Why? Because there's certain liquidity that needs to be moved from Uniswap towards Deep Waters for that process to happen. And if we see that moving a port of that liquidity, and by the way, it's not liquidity that is owned by the community, it's only liquidity that's owned by the DAO's funds. So no, we can't, like we said, we are a DeFi protocol. We can't touch funds of liquidity providers that have staked liquidity. That's not we can't do that. We can only work with those the ETH and BST that is owned by the DAO still. So yeah.
So thank you, Deep Waters, for that process and for putting us as one of the projects that lived through that process. Thank you for all who voted for us. We see that we've got more votes than required to join. Let's hope that our governance board will take the right choice to list or not to list based on what's best for us. But regardless, it's an achievement, I believe, for us, for our community, which again we need to thank Deep Waters for. And we wish you all the good luck. It's a route ahead. If we list now, that's great with you. If we don't, hopefully we'll list in a year or a month or 2 or 10, when the time is right for us, for our community, for our ecosystem, as well as for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think here it's the important thing to gain out of it, whatever the decision is going to be. I think it's important to to understand, there's been a due diligence process by the exchange done. It has been positively approved. It has been accepted. And so I think this is also a validation point from us. And if the vote goes into saying a no rather than a yes, doesn't mean that this is not going to happen in due time, but it might come because of considerations of which exchange to centralized exchange to consider first. Maybe that's one of the reasons why it would go for a no or a yes. So there's branding, there's strategic decisions to be made, and we will announce those decisions soon, within 48 hours probably from today's block chat. Yeah.
Perfect. So what was happening this week? We had World Blockchain Summit in Dubai, which is always interesting and exciting because there's many amazing individuals that we meet and we get introduced to. Some who have projects that they're running, some who have exchanges which are probably target for us to list with. Some are liquidity providers, some are investors, some are VCs, and it's always interesting to meet people with positive vibes. And World Blockchain Summit have over the past years the right vibe for that. So today, while I was in the summit, or actually not today, it's a day ago, but I miss the time now, the sense of time. What what I encountered is some gentlemen who were very interested in tokenization, and the question that they had was, is the is the tokenization you do different than the tokenization that is done generally, and how is it different, and what is different? So I've explained it, and it seems that they liked what I exchanged or what I explained, shockingly. And I promised that I will, because I'll not have time to type it and write it for them, I will record it for them. So why not explain it again on this block chat, and maybe then I can send it to them and to everyone else within our community and beyond to remind you, because block chat is meant to inform you of what's happening by Blocksquare and Ocean Point through that week, but at the same time to hopefully educate people and educate us and intrigue us to educate ourselves more over technology, over methodologies, and how things take place and how things are done. So, how about running through that, Dennis, and then we take it from there? Is there any other news of past week you would like to go for with before we do that?
No, we can. I think we can actually do that for whoever this is addressing. We're addressing with. I think that not delay further, and then we can maybe pick up some other topics afterwards. Let's do that. Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. So, what are we doing? And here the definition of whatever we're doing will start with real estate rather than tech, because again, there's many parties in the world that are developing tech and that develop tech. Yet the methodology of how you do things sparks from or starts at the base level of the asset class you're trying to impact here. So let's talk real estate. With real estate, you have the property, you have economic value that is secured usually or registered using a title or a deed, depending on where are you in the world and which jurisdiction are you in. That title registers those economic rights, the set of economic rights, in a private register or public register as well, depending on the jurisdiction. Now, what we do is we keep that title intact, because remember, in most jurisdictions, if not all, it's illegal to touch the title without affecting the register. So if you want to touch the register, you need to go through a notary or through a land department or through a trustee, depending on where are you in the world, and then you can impact any change to the register. So what we do is we keep that title intact. We come prior to that title and we touch the economic rights. And we take a representation of the economic rights and we transmit it on chain. How do we do that? Using an agreement that has been used for the past hundreds of years. It's called a corporate resolution, where companies can do business with companies, companies do business with individuals. A corporate resolution can transfer or assign sets of rights based on certain criteria with certain triggers from a party to another. Now, this corporate resolution allows us to move the economic rights or to register the economic rights on chain. And that's the act of tokenizing it. But then we fractionalize it. So the idea of splitting a property to 100,000 tokens, and then you have single tokens there. Now, does this does this method allow people to own real estate with all what it represents? Yes, it does. Why? Because the sets of economic rights represent the main three rights, which are the right to use, the right to rent and get benefit of, or anything else, and the right to sell and get either the appreciation or the depreciation, depending on what's happening with the asset at that time. So the benefit of holding the asset and selling it. Now, those rights are all passed through. The beauty about corporate resolution and how we do it is that you can structure that in different ways. So you can structure that to sustain the kind of return and the kind of revenues in a certain manner, or you can restrict it in another. Similarly, the buyout or the sellback or the sell out to a third party, all of this can be clearly defined, and it's all after that on chain after it's defined. So it's public, it's transparent, including any valuations which are required, and they are required by our system. Now, what I said is the following: tokenization is not one of two. Tokenization is not or does not give you the ability to sell a property for more than its value. It's the opposite of that. You sell the property for its value, and its value will be public through a valuation that is current. So that's item number one. Anyone who's searching to sell at beyond the property value. Now, after it's tokenized and it's sold, it can be proven in the secondary market or even as a primary offering that there is a premium for that kind of accessibility and liquidity, the tokenization premium. Why? Because now it's accessible by more people. So while a person who has $10 million has more options to invest his money at a higher cap rate, a person who has $500 may not have that opportunity. Sometimes it works the other way around. However, may not have that opportunity, so may be interested to buy a property or an asset at a lower cap rate. So there may be that premium. However, fundamentally, that's not what it's made for. Two, the second thing, which is very important, it's not made for you to be able to pass on an asset in a non-transparent manner and then take it back also in a non-transparent manner, while that party does not get the benefit of holding that asset. So these sets of rights and how they're maneuvered around with are all defined within the corporate resolution. Now, after we do that, those tokens can be offered to third parties on a marketplace. And what we do at Blocksquare is we are infrastructure providers. So we provide you with a white label solution so that you can launch your own marketplace wherever you are in the world and in any jurisdiction you are in. And then you take those tokens after they're listed and you offer them to public and you sell them to public or private, doesn't matter. Now, definitely, and obviously, there is caveats here within the process because remember, a property in general, a property investment is as good as how it's managed. So management is a very important thing. Now, will you be able today, at our current time, to pull out from the market $100 million in liquidity for a project through tokenization only? Probably not. However, can it be part of your capital stack? Yes, it can. If you use it for the right reasons, your limitations are not existent approximately. If you use it and if you use it for the right reasons and the right way. If you don't, then you are limited. Now, if you use it for the right reason, what is the ultimate? The ultimate is a project which can be a commercial property, let's say it's worth $10 million. You want to raise $1 million through tokenization. You want to raise 50% of the total property value, which is 5 million for a bank or any other party, and then private equity raise or your equity and goes in. And then you have a portion which is tokenized. Now, why is this more advantageous than tokenizing $100,000 property? Because you can afford to have that property managed professionally and generally with regular proper governance. While at $100,000 of a total ticket size, it's difficult to have it standardized and managed properly unless there's hundreds of those properties tokenized in a certain city or in a certain area or managed by a certain management company that follows those standards. So what we are doing is we're tokenizing. We are able to liquefy. Now, who are our target audience? Two. One is the same audience which is for the crowdfunding today. And the benefit of that, you're not entering a funnel that's closed at the end. With tokenization, you're entering a funnel which is open at the end, where you can, through a secondary market offering, trade that and sell those tokens on. Second, digital nomads, people who are Web3 native, that community of people who invest in a different way and thinks of it in a different way. And the token structure and the economic right corporate resolution structuring can allow you to target both parties as well as you can, as good as you can. And then you're getting the benefit of both worlds. So again, the limitations of it today is what you can pull out probably from the ecosystem, from the Web3 ecosystem today, and from the non-Web3 ecosystem by getting people who are usual conventional property investors into that process. This is what we're doing. So have we sorted all ways? Or sorry, all challenges? Not really. There are some of our challenges or the challenges that exist between how to work with legislation, different legislations, and what do they mean that still exist. And hopefully the ultimate within a few months, years, nobody knows, but that will come in the future is our asset-backed token will be an asset-backed token, and it will be regulated properly, not looked at as a probably as a security. Although we don't mind that it's looked at as a security today, because maybe that allows, if the only way for a legislator to be able to safeguard people's rights is doing it that way, let it be. Now, it's very important here to mention that if you are tokenizing and then selling a property, it's an element of transparency added to the whole transaction. Remember, our services first does not allow us custody. So we don't offer that with a custodial service that touches your money. It's self-custody. So what we've built and the methodology of how we've built and everything we've built, all our smart contracts are audited by Hacken and get highest rates grading there. It's very important that we all understand that we're doing things right. We're doing things sometimes slower than other startups because we want to do it right. We're tackling an asset class which is worth hundreds of trillions of dollars, and it's worth tackling it that way. Another question that was asked is, why are you on Ethereum and why are you Ethereum based? And the answer is because we value security, especially in property and real estate, security and stability to probably speed and less gas fees. Although with time it will work well, regardless of where you are. Now, that said, we have developed recently on Near, and we will continue until probably we reach a point probable communication between blockchains. That is my 5 cents for the day. I hope that it makes sense, and I hope I've done it as good as I've done it when there's people in front of you. You talk different than when you're talking to the camera here. But hopefully Dennis was listening. How was it, Dennis? Do you think that it made any sense, and was it any good?
I think it made, I mean, I understand the whole pitch you made there. I totally understand. Obviously, I'm partial here, and I breathe and think real estate tokenization for a couple of years now, every day. So I'm not maybe the right person to ask, but I had the opportunity to talk this weekend to some folks who obviously have nothing, no understanding, except they heard about Ethereum, but they're not from financial sector, they're not from real estate sector, but they did understand some of the things that our infrastructure might one day facilitate. So they understood the notion of us building the building blocks for real estate oriented financial services and businesses to utilize it. So they understood that we're like a layer below that service layer that comes afterwards, right? Um, and with our line of products, we want to inspire businesses and business owners to develop new business models on top of their existing ones with tokenization in mind because of the flexibility that it offers, the ability of them tapping into a new market, emerging market, where there's a lot of wealth being created. And that wealth is being created through cryptocurrencies, through NFTs, through different transactional activities, borrowing, lending. So there's a whole new economy happening that we kind of call or named Web3. And that economy is really looking forward to be able to interact with real world assets such as real estate. And the value proposition that we have for that market, when you say pull out of that market, is because you're giving to that market something that it doesn't have. So it's not a magic wand where you tokenize and you can just extract something out of something. No, you need to give something back. That's basic laws of physics. Um, and and here is basically we're giving the Web3 market real estate through a token form, so real world real estate value. And you receive back funds that give you certain liquidity, which gives you options to then manage those funds, whether that's in the real world, acquiring investments in the real world, or just getting exposure in the Web3 world. So let's say that you're a real estate owner and you have a large portfolio in real estate, but you're having a hard time to kind of on ramp into the Web3 world. You want to make some investments in Web3, but you really can't. Why? Because all your investments are tied up in traditional finance through real estate, for instance, a portion of it. Now imagine you can take that portfolio and you can liquidate 10, 15% of that value so that you can now acquire Web3 funds through that sale, not so that you can reinvest them in real estate, but maybe you want to start buying into NFTs, maybe you want to buy into other crypto assets, etc. And that's your on-ramp then. And that could be also a potential use case for
Yeah,
somebody
I wanted to.
right now.
While you were talking, I wanted to cut you on, and this is a real estate, the best asset class there is. Why would you do that? So
Because somebody smart some time ago said that you don't need it's better not to have all your eggs in one basket, right? And and one of the things that many people say is like not having some part or your net worth in crypto is not really smart today. It might have sounded smart like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but it's not really a smart decision today. And you should allocate a portion, small or big, into this new exciting type of asset that offers you new possibilities. And well, some people just need to make that investment to stay young.
what's happening? What's happening with liquidity on BST? I believe things are doing great there, and there's some price movement that have taken place. But what's happening there, and why is it taking place, Dennis?
Um, honestly, I haven't followed so much, because I did follow last week when we saw the impact on. I think at one point we were like on one side there was about 1 million of BST,
Mhm.
on the other side 200 ETH, I think, even surpassing that value. And somebody from our community kind of highlighted that we went over certain thresholds, and I think this is kind of good milestones, and it's signs of growth, I would say. As any young asset as such, in its function, in its community, etc., it's obviously has its ups and downs. So just like if somebody
Is that
encountered
expected to
BST
stabilize or no, it's not?
not at the moment. So at the moment, it's totally supply demand type of thing. So when there's a rush towards purchasing, price will go obviously up, and it stabilizes in terms of allowing larger buys, because the liquidity pool is growing. I think the APY on Ocean Point is still very, very interesting, above 60% annually, which is I think a very big opportunity for anybody who wants to engage in providing liquidity for a new upcoming crypto asset. Um, but the stabilization of BST will come only um, a couple years down the road, when we have a large enough pool of real estate assets generating revenues, and those revenues making a direct impact on BST with buybacks, burns, and BST distributions to participants that provide service, or that perform a certain liquidity service, let's say, within Ocean Point as a reward. So at that moment, there will be a much more steady type of growth on a limited supply token. Right now, it's anybody who joins in and says, "Okay, I really like this project. I like what these guys are doing. They've been at it for some time. Seems a legit thing, and I want to be part of this." And I want to have some exposure to it, and so they make a purchase, and that drives other purchases, and obviously drives price up. And then when people get maybe scared, then it drives price down. But I don't think it really impacts those who kind of see this as a long-term thing, because there's an acquisition point, there's a holding period for everybody who thinks sees this as a long-term thing, or a mid-term, and it's not yet really a trading activity of sorts.
Can we do something, Dennis, within the coming few weeks? So probably there's people who have rewards now and have tokens, or there are people listening to us who would like to engage with that and they don't own tokens at all yet. How about if we run people through one of those block chats coming through the process of starting from buying BST, acquiring BST if they do have it through rewards or any other mode, they have it, and then staking it within the liquidity pool, or providing liquidity to the system or any of those, and running them through that to show them how easy it is. What do you think?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. That sounds like a good idea for a block chat. Just creating a session where we just present the basic functionality of version 03, just like we did with when we were presenting how to stake real estate, how to unstake real estate, and yeah,
Perfect.
good
Let's do that.
suggestion. Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Anything else for this week?
Well, you were at World Blockchain Summit in Dubai, so I wanted to ask you a bit more about, because honestly, we haven't talked about it yet. We haven't had the time. So it would be great to learn from you how it went. What are your what did you take from that conference? Was it interesting meetings you had? Um, Etc. Yeah.
So very interesting. Good projects, different projects to what we've seen in previous blockchain summits. A good crowd, a decent crowd. You see there was so much hype in the previous ones, probably because of the state of the market at that time. And now the hype, as it seems, have cooled down. Yet there is those people who are really after projects to touch real life assets and real life, real people's life. There is projects dealing with education. There's others dealing with different types of assets. There is a project which deals with um, cinemas and filmmaking and the likes, and all of this is pretty interesting. I've seen few trends this year. One of them is that there's too many people from the Far East, and so last year probably, or sorry, the year before last in 2020, um, 2020 end or 2021, probably it's 2021. Sorry, I have very bad sense of time recently. So in 2021, in the first half of the year, there was a World Blockchain Summit, and it was dominated approximately by people from North America. Okay,
Mm,
companies from North
okay.
America, companies from that part of the world. This time, it's dominated from with people and companies and projects from Asia and Europe. So there's plenty of European projects and there's plenty of Asian projects, specifically projects from India. So hats off to all of those founders, startups who are working hard to get there. Quite interesting number of startups that are trying to go global from markets like China, markets like India. It's very interesting when you see, those markets are huge. India is 1 billion people, China as well, and this is probably more than 20% or 25% of the world population. So when you have an exchange that is number one in India trying to go out, and they have a few millions of users there, that's cool. Yeah, that's powerful. And when you take that at magnitude out and you apply, if they have the right services and they have the right opportunities for people, I believe it's beneficial for them, beneficial for their communities, and beneficial for the world. And this, I believe, cycle of innovation will narrow the gaps between countries, communities, societies, and cultures, and which is very important. So Dubai has always been. I also this week have been part of this week or last week. Last week have been part of a very interesting event which I was emceeing, which is the construction conference, actually construction technology week conference, and it's a very interesting conference for professionals, architects, engineers, ESG specialists, and the likes. And you see good innovation from software to hardware. You see good application for that, integration of IoT, AIoT. All of this is interesting to create a circular economy, to create, to impact real estate and efficiency, and in a very good way. So I believe very interesting 15 days probably beginning of the month, and hopefully that continues. Dubai has always been that kind of dynamic location for everyone to meet, and it's good to see the faces coming every year, as well as new faces like this year.
All right. So one question I have is World Blockchain Summit is in, I think it's also in Dubai, but it's in other places as well, right?
Sure, sure.
As I remember, Julia went to Phuket, no, to Bangkok, to the
Yeah.
Bangkok edition
Mhm.
a couple months ago, just before New Year's, and she said it was really amazing as an event. They were very positive, even though we were like around FTX times, and all of those things. And I think even like we got a partner in our marketplace partner from that conference at the time. So I think it's good to be present in those events. And do you feel like this is something that might come out of this Dubai edition,
Yeah,
that we
hopefully
might
there will
have
be.
find some potential partners to jump on our infrastructure and open up something?
Hopefully we will have. And by the way, World Blockchain Summit, I've met the founders before.
Hmm.
Cool guys, and what they're doing is amazing. Guys, the way they manage their event, the way they book people for their event, the way they follow up. If every company did that, there will be no problem in sales in the world, and conversions will be amazing. And it's amazing, as if they're doing a private sale every time they invite someone to their event, from point A till booking to people there, the speakers, the it's very cool. So well done. Yes, Dennis, I believe there will be things that come out hopefully of this year's event. And yes, it happens in many parts of the world, and in Dubai it happens twice a year probably. But it's pretty interesting. I've been pleased to be part of it this week. Any other
All right.
questions or things you
So
need to know, or anything else we need to tell our community?
I don't know, not from my end. I think we covered most of the things for this week. And thank you for joining us on Block Chat. I'll leave you with Makram for wrapping the session.
Thank you for being with us, guys. Thank you for all your support. We see within the past few weeks the drive of the community, the drive of everyone around. And I don't go to Twitter so often, but I've been to Twitter a few days ago, and I saw tweets about Blocksquare, what Blocksquare is doing. It's amazing to see people this inspired, this enthusiastic. You feel that every member of a community is a member of the team. So I believe this is a DAO in the making, soul and at the same time pumping heart. So that's a great. Thank you all for being with us on this block chat. Until next time, have a good evening.